Hello everybody, Maven here, and I can't believe nobody is talking about the Anarchy. Grenade launchers got a massive buff with the release of Lightfall, and Bungie even poked at us and prodded at us preseason, like, hey, bust out the Anarchy, it's gonna be meta, and nobody listened. And now this is kind of like a follow-up video to a recent video we did called Do Not Use a Rocket Launcher When Playing Solo. I'll link that video in the card up above if you want to check it out. I highly recommend checking it out. And in that video, I was showing how you don't want to use a rocket launcher when playing alone because nobody's buffing your rocket with Gallarhorn, so you're missing out on a lot of damage. So what we did in that video is we took a lot of DPS options over to Pharisia, the Ogre boss of Grasp of Avarice, and we tested a lot of things to see what you should be using when you're playing solo. And Anarchy actually performed very well and overall can output the most damage by far that anything else can put out. So I really wanted to make a build to bring out Anarchy's potential, and that is what led me to the Mask of Bakris. This is one of the many exotics that got a huge overhaul with the release of Lightfall, and it is crazy better than it was before. What it did before is when you dodge, you get a 10% arc weapon damage boost for 10 seconds. And now, when you dodge, you get a 25% arc weapon damage boost for 10 seconds, and to your stasis weapons as well. That is a huge buff that's literally doing 5 times what it did before. So yeah, it does ridiculous damage, and that is what I wanted to go over today. So let's break it down. Don't forget to drop a like, and I hope you enjoy. So we're going to waste no time and jump straight away into a damage comparison as we do in these types of videos. So we're going to start off with the Apex Predator, the meta rocket launcher against our good pal Carl. So we hit for 88,285 impact damage and 27,715 splash damage for a total of exactly 116,000. Now moving on to the Anarchy, and for the sake of simplicity, we're not counting the impact or detonation damage. We're just going to count the tick damage because that's what Anarchy's kind of all about. So the base unbuffed damage against Carl is 10,067 damage, and it ticks a total of 20 times, equating to 201,340. So already we're doing nearly double the damage of a rocket launcher, but you also got to keep in mind that with the rocket, that single rocket was 1/7 of our total ammo reserves, whereas that one Anarchy shot was 1/16 of our total ammo reserves. So straight away you can see how hyper ammo efficient the Anarchy is compared to the rocket launcher, but we need to make things a little bit more fair, because with the rocket launcher we did expend 1/7 of our reserves. If we shoot 2 Anarchy shots, that would be 1/8 of our reserves. Not quite the same thing. So to even it up, we're going to throw in our Bakris dodge for that extra 25% damage. And that would somewhat simulate as though we expended 1/7 of our ammo reserves. So going up against Carl, we shoot 2 shots into our Bakris dodge. You can see in the left side of the screen we got the buff, and we're doing 25,182 per tick. Times 20, that equates to 503,640, which is the damage that over 4 rockets deal. So yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Don't really need to say much else, but if you wanted to be extra fair here and actually calculate the numbers of unbuffed damage, the Anarchy holds 16 total reserves. Over the course of those base reserves, we're doing 3,221,440 damage. And the Apex Predator has 7 base reserves, allowing for 812,000 damage. So not even close. If you wanted the Apex Predator to do the damage of Anarchy, you would need to have 28 rockets in the reserves. So it is really no comparison whatsoever. But let's be fair again, because the Apex Predator does have the base and switch perk. That's kind of what it's all about, but we need a bigger target. So of course we're going to take it to Pharisia. So we're going to start off with the Anarchy, shoot our 2 shots, do our Bakris dodge, let the 20 ticks run out while not shooting Pharisia with anything else, jump off the ledge, and we get 215,000 damage. Now moving on to the Apex Predator, of course we're pairing it with the Wither Horde. We're going to shoot a shot of primary as well, use our rocket, and only one of the 2 shots are going to have the bait and switch buff, which is 35%. And again, we're going to be fair and let the Wither Horde damage run its course, and we end up with a total of 275,000 damage, which was 60,000 more that the Anarchy did. But we did use the Wither Horde, and we used nearly 1/3 of our total heavy ammo reserves. With the Anarchy, we used 1/8 of our heavy ammo reserves. So once again, it's really no comparison. The Anarchy is astronomically higher in total damage output than any other option. And also, if you added Gallarhorn to the mix for the Apex Predator, it still wouldn't be close. else. But where the Apex Predator with Witherhoard and Pack Hunter shines is definitely burst damage. It's meant for like dungeon boss and raid boss DPS phases, and that's more for fire team coordination so somebody can run galley. But if you're playing solo, or if you're doing a Grandmaster Nightfall or any other kind of content like that, the Anarchy can put in so much more work. Plus, if you're dealing with a boss that has a lot of health gates or you're in no time limit whatsoever, the Anarchy gives you a lot more bang for your buck. So it's a very underrated and underused option. Now, some of you may be wondering, because Bakris does say it provides a non-stacking damage buff, does it work with Well of Radiance? Well, the Sanguine Alchemy says it provides a non-stacking damage buff, yet it does work with Well. So, as we figured, the Mask of Bakris does indeed work with Well. Our Bakris damage should be 25k per tick, but it's doing 31k. Now, as for my other weapon options, remember that the Bakris buffs both Arc and Stasis weapon damage for 10 seconds, so it's nice to use the Stasis weapon up top here. I like the Riptide with Chill Clip, that's a very good option. There's also a Vorpal roll for boss damage, or you can use a Sniper if you want, like the Edo Kanji or the Thoughtless. Those are pretty good options as well. And for the secondary slot, obviously use an Arc weapon for the Bakris. The Forbearance is great. I really love the Forbearance. If you want to use a primary weapon, there is the Brigand's Law. It has Volt Shots, that's pretty good. And applying Jolt to a target while the tick damage from a Dust-Filled Grenade and Anarchy is going away at them, it actually does quite a bit of damage. If you wanted to use a special Volt Shot option, there is the Path of Least Resistance, and another DPS option here is the Adored with Triple Tap and Vorpal. It's pretty good with the Bakris buff. But ultimately, I feel this is the best loadout for going fast, and you can even use this in tough content with champions because Stasis slow effects will stun overloads, shatter effects will stun unstoppables, and if you catch a barrier champion within a dusk-filled grenade and constantly freeze them, and also constantly freeze them with your Chill Clip Riptide, you can deal with all three champions just with your subclass alone, so you don't really need any specific anti-champion weapons. Now let's break down our subclass here, starting with our aspects. We got Touch of Winter to enhance our dusk-filled grenade and make a little stasis crystal in the middle of it. When we shatter that crystal, we got Whisper of Shards to boost our grenade recharge rate, so that's nice. We stand near the crystal, we get some resist from Whisper of Chains. Moving on to the other aspect, we got Grim Harvest. Defeating slowed or frozen combatants makes stasis shards. That's very easy to do. It gives a lot of Withering Blade energy. Plus, it gives us Whisper of Rhyme Overshields to give us a little bit of resist within our subclass, which is nice. To round it all out, we got Whisper of Torment to give us grenade energy when we take damage, and Endurance so that our slow from our Dustfield Grenade and our Withering Blade last longer. Now on to the mod setup. Typically, I'm against Finders and Scavengers, and I don't really use reserves unless I'm doing a raid. However, with the Anarchy, it's actually worth it because the Arc reserves will benefit your Forbearance as well, but with your Anarchy, it allows you to hold 2 more ammo, and that's significant because we calculated earlier that 2 more ammo equates to total damage of over 4 rockets. So with the Scavenger and the Finder as well, every shot of the Anarchy is precious and equates to so much damage. So moving on, we got Arc Siphon to make orbs off of our Forbearance double kills. Those orbs give us Charge with Light, so we get more grenade energy back off Grenade Kickstart because we want to spam Dusk Fields because they're just so good. And then we have Hands On for our Withering Blade because that's very good for ad clear. We've got Impact Induction and Momentum Transfer so that we deal damage with Grenade, we get melee cooldown. We deal damage with the melee, we get Grenade cooldown. They feed off of each other. We get more Grenade and melee cooldown from our class item with Outreach and Bomber when we dodge. And then when we dodge, we're proccing Reaper, so our next kill is going to make an Orb of Power, again for more Grenade Kickstart energy. Got a couple different resist mods on our chest which are interchangeable depending on the activity you are doing. And then on my boots, I have Innervation for more grenade energy, and then Recuperation for some health back. Now stat-wise, I did go triple hundreds in Mobility, Resilience, and Discipline. If your armor does not allow you to do so, then I would prioritize Resilience over everything else because it is PvE that we're talking about here. And in PvE, 100 Resilience is required. Always run a minimum of 3 intellect. The other stats don't really matter. Don't pay attention to recovery. If you have any leftover points, you can put it into strength, I guess. So that pretty much does it for the build. Again, if you want additional context, you can check out that video I did of do not use a rocket launcher when playing solo. You can get some more information there and some more damage testing against Frisia. So yeah, if you have an exotic slot to spare, something like the Anarchy or even the Leviathan's Breath is a much better option than something like a rocket launcher. But as you saw in the background gameplay in the intro, I did use it in a solo Legend Lost sector, and at some point in the video I may have put Grandmaster gameplay as well, I'm not sure. But every time I used Anarchy against a champion, slap 2 shots on the champion and Bakris dodge away, it always put the champion into finisher. Didn't quite kill it because champions are tanky, but putting them into finisher is fine enough. You know, with the rocket, it usually takes like 3 rockets to put a Grandmaster champion in a finisher, and that is just not going to cut it. So I am genuinely surprised why the Anarchy is not meta. It is ridiculous. Now, you don't need Bakris to make Anarchy insane. You saw the numbers earlier. It's still going to be powerful. I just used Bakris for the video to bring out the full potential of Anarchy, to give it the highest damage buff possible. You know, it's cool to have that damage buff on command whenever you stick a champion, just dodge away, and you got that 25% damage buff whenever. If you have triple surge mods, that only equates to a 22% damage buff, which is slightly less and also takes a lot more work. You know, with the Bakris, it's going to be a little bit more consistent. But using the Anarchy on any other build with a copy of stacks on stacks and double surges with a copy of time dilation, it can still do the job. I just wanted to make an interesting build with it. So anyways, if you want to try the build out, I'll leave it in the dim link down below in the description and the pinned comment if you'd like to give it a try. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button and drop a comment, because interacting with the video in different types of ways like that really helps the algorithm. It helps the video out a ton. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.